Can you guess where I am? You got it? Listen to this. All right, here's another clue. Come on, it's obvious. I'm in the bath. Every afternoon now, sun floods my bathroom. I have a west-facing bathroom, and from 2 p.m. till 7-ish, between September and March, it catches the sun. Between 2 and 5, it's steamy and oppressive. I fully expect to see a cassowary grazing in here. But just before twilight, heat escapes, and the fading sun, minus the teeth, reflects off my tiles, making this curious yellow glow, and it feels like I'm in Egypt. It's a cheap way to travel. Solitary, but cheap. The other curious thing is sound travels faster through water, so with my ears placed just under the water, I'm more alert than ever before. I hear neighbours fussing over some wine.
Well, what about the red?
Oh, for God's sake.
Someone in the distance is practicing the drums, and rainbow lorikeets are swearing at each other in the bottle brush across the road. If I could only bird in a bath all the time. Dreaming, yes, we'll go dream.
There's always something to see at Werribee.
That last voice you heard? That was Sean Dooley, author of The Big Twitch. He's also known as the sex symbol of the Australian birding world. We're in Werribee Treatment Works, which is located near Melbourne. Carry on, Sean.
This place, when people think of sewage ponds, they usually think of maybe a stinking round concrete pond with some scum on the top. But this is a huge area with a huge diverse range of habitats. Some natural wetlands, some natural salt marsh, but then a whole range of artificial wetlands and a few grasslands and some bush birds as well. So it's a really fantastic area for birds. Well, the Werribee list has over 275 species of bird recorded here, which, to put it in context, is around the same amount of birds that have been found in all of Kakadu. If we spent a solid day here, we'd easily see 80 or 90 species, I'd say.
I could virtually triple my list today here, possibly.
Well, they won't all be here today.
Oh, well, let's pack up then.
I can hear goldfinch, also yellow rump thornbill and superb fairy wren, and I'm pretty sure I just heard red-browed finch. Yep, there goes a red-browed finch. And that's a grey fantail calling. That little sweet little chatter. There's a white-browed scrub wren chipping away in there too. It takes I think with any language you need reinforcement, so you can sit in the classroom and learn the calls, but you need to actually get out and see them calling. And I know if I go to an area I haven't been to for a while, a different sort of habitat, it often takes me a few hours, half a day to get the calls back in my head.
So how did you come to be a bird watcher?
As a kid I was a little suck, and we had a teacher, and he had a reputation for wielding the strap, and he was a bird watcher, and I thought in my 10-year-old brain, if I like birds, he likes birds, he won't give me the strap. The theory fell apart fairly early on, but within 2 weeks of deciding I'd get into birds so he wouldn't hit me, I completely became hooked on bird watching and absolutely loved it. And the teacher turned out to be inspiring, and he had a pair of binoculars for every kid in the class, and in the middle of an English class he'd just go, "It looks a good day for bird watching," and he'd just trump the class out and we'd sit on the fence and he'd get us to watch birds, and then me and some mates would borrow the binoculars and go down there at lunchtime and just love doing it.
And here you are today.
That man has a lot to answer for.
One of the things I really love about bird watching is when you don't have to get out of the car. And we are like in a mobile hide in many ways. But there is some currency to bird watching in the car, isn't there? Because birds tend to come to you. Is this true?
Birds haven't evolved with cars seeing them as a predator, so These birds are completely oblivious to our presence. They don't care that we're here, but if we got out of the car, they'd start to get a bit wary. There might be howling a gale out there, but we're in our air-conditioned comfort and the birds are laid on.
So on your life list at the moment, what are you at?
My Australian list, which is the only one that counts, is I'm on 740 species, which puts me, I think, about 13th in the all-time list of twitchers. So I've got to try and crack it into the top 10 again if I can soon.
Well, you've dropped out of the top 10.
Yeah, poverty has meant that I haven't been able to do a lot of twitchers. Since I cracked into the top 10, there's been probably at least 15 species that have turned up that I haven't been able to go for because they've been on Christmas Island or Ashmore Reef or even Darwin, and I just haven't been able to had the time or the money to get there.
What are these birds that you're actually after?
A lot of them are Asian vagrants that have blown in on a cyclone or just turned up. It's interesting, we're seeing a lot more of these sorts of birds turning up, and it's hard to know whether it's because there are more bird watchers out there in the frontier territories looking for them, or whether it's because climate change is messing with migratory patterns of birds.
Soon Australian bird watchers will have to always go out with an Asian field guide.
Oh, exactly. It's almost compulsory now.
And in terms of the twitchers, is Mike Carter still the gun?
Yeah, Mike Carter's still got an almost unassailable lead. He's the first one to crack 800, and I think he's about 30 or 40 ahead of his nearest rival, but his nearest rival is about 50 years younger, so Mike, I think, is trying to clock up as many species as he can before he drops off the perch and put that distance between him and the young guns.
Oh, damn. Doesn't the phone always ring when you're in the bath? It's just these situations that I'm glad I wear shoes in the bath. You can't smile without lip. Yes, coming. Coming. Oh, note to self. Remember to move phone closer to bathroom. Yes, coming. Oh, somebody's very persistent out there. Hello, Steve Abbott speaking.
I mean, a few years ago, I was seeing 1 or 2 birds a year.
Mike Carter.
Yeah.
Sean Dooley was just talking about you. Were you listening? Of course not. He just said you're trying to get as many birds as you can before you drop off the perch. What do you say to that?
Oh, exactly true.
All right, mate, I've got to go because I've got Sean Dooley still. He's still talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually naked. And I know you don't need that information. Sorry. All right, back to the bath and Sean Dooley. These stairs, why are they so steep?
Like, I'm really amazed how often I get asked this question when people find out I'm a bird watcher. First question is, where do you go bird watching? Second question is, how do you prove that you've seen what you've seen? And the third question is often, do birds have penises? And I didn't actually know, and it turns out that most birds don't have penises, and not just the females, but the males of the birds. A lot of birds don't actually have a penis as we know it. That's such a weird phrase. It's a penis, but not as we know it. They actually have, both the males and females have what's called a cloaca, which is a little kind of cavity, I suppose. And the way they breed, it's a beautifully named cloacal kiss, where the male's cloaca fills up with sperm and the female's cloaca has the egg, and they bump cloacas, and the transference of sperm and egg happens into the female's cloaca. But interestingly, some birds do have penises, and they're birds like emus and ducks and things like that. And they're actually the older birds, the ones that evolved first. And I think birds probably evolved a different form of penis, which, genitals, which is different, which is actually more reminiscent of reptiles. But it's interesting, the first birds had penises and now they've reverted back to the reptilian genitals. And I think my theory is because when you're flying, you don't want something dangling and creating wind resistance. So everything moved inside them again. But the older birds have still retained those. And in fact, the duck, there's the Argentine lake duck has the record for the longest penis compared to its ratio of its body length. And the ducks say 40 centimetres long, but its penis, which is partly internal and then comes out, is something like 45 centimetres long. So it's actually got its schlong is longer than its body, which is... I can think of a few guys I know who think that's the case with them, but with an Argentine lake duck, that's actually the case.
So that might be quite pleasurable for the Argentine lake duck as it was flying through the air and having the wind, caress that part of its body.
Possibly, but I was thinking it's a good thing humans don't have that because, the danger of getting it caught in your zipper would increase exponentially.
Must be a real problem for the lake duck.
Maybe it's very cold and it needs a scarf and just wraps it around its neck. These birds, the sharp-tailed sandpipers, or sharpies as we affectionately know them, they're like the prototype wader for around here, I think. In these sort of wetlands, they're one of the more common ones that you get. A lot of people have trouble getting to knots trying to identify shorebirds. And the way I tell people and do it myself is you find a prototype and then you look for differences from that prototype. And so the Sharpie is a really good prototype because it's one of the more common ones. And also it's almost like the standard unit of a wader. It's
purple water wren, is it?
Purple swamp hen. The Sharpie is it's a small wader, but it's not as small as a stint and it's not as large as a lot of the other ones. So if you look for that, you get to learn that species, and then you look for any differences in birds you see. So if they're smaller, you start to think stints. If they're bigger, you start to think things like greenshanks or godwits or other things. And then you look at their bill, and the Sharpie's got a slightly, just ever so slightly down-curved bill, but it's not as small as a stint, but it's not as long and curvy as, say, a curlew sandpiper or a marsh sandpiper. Oh, and here we've got the little black and white thing with the black and white front and the brown on the back. That's a red-kneed dotterel, which is one of our indigenous breeding shorebirds. They're a freshwater species, and they breed in Australia.
I was just thinking about the prerequisites for a bird watcher, and obviously obsession is one of those prerequisites, because we ran into a bunch of suspicious-looking bird watchers in a four-wheel drive who said they'd seen some brolgas, and since you heard that and you can't find them, you've become agitated and quite obsessed.
Yes, well, it's partly, brolgas are a beautiful bird, and Australia's own native crane, and but it's more the fact that it's a 5.5-foot giant grey bird that's out in a paddock somewhere, and I can't find them, and it's really getting to me.
I can see you getting the shits, big time. So obviously obsession, having a fair bit of cash would help to be a bird watcher, and any other sort of prerequisites?
Ridiculous stubbornness and determination to see things that it doesn't really matter whether you see them or not, but the ability to inflate that in importance in your mind.
For 10 minutes in a warm bath between September and March, I am relaxed, alert, and can escape to wherever I want. That is, until the plug is removed and I'm returned to where I began, albeit wiser and tranquilised, and with some new birds on my definitive list of other people's bird sightings. To be continued. And it's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Dreaming. Yes, we'll go dreaming. Yes, I am.